Greetings, Mech Warriors, and welcome to another video in our BattleTech Supplement series. From a suggestion by a viewer, in this video, we will cover Handbook, Major Periphery States. Handbook Major Periphery States mostly acts as a history book for the areas just outside the Inner Sphere, as written by a handful of editors from the Interstellar Associated Press. The eras it covers in the BattleTech fiction is the Star League era through the Civil War era. It starts with the history of the Periphery itself, then later splits into sections focusing on the details and politics of the Magistry of Canopus, the Taurian Concordat, the Outworlds Alliance, the Marian Hegemony, and some minor Periphery States, finally ending in the Rules Annex, where there are various supplemental items for the BattleTech role-playing game, A Time of War, as well as technical readouts and record sheets for classic BattleTech. After the credits, Handbook Major Periphery States, like most BattleTech supplements, begins with a short story. This one is titled Local Color and takes the form of a transcript of an excerpt of an in-universe video broadcast called Scoop, Vidzine, from 3067. In this episode, a reporter named Denise De Valera is interviewing an elderly mech warrior from the Periphery by the name of Temperance Macaulay. She goes into detail about her rough upbringing in the Wild West of a mining colony on the independent world of Tumbleweed. Temperance, Temper for short, speaks of working hard as a child, earning her way to working on industrial mechs. Disaster strikes in 2960 when Tortuga pirates happen upon the settlement and destroy it for fun. Later, as an adult, she found herself on Illyria as a mechanic for a mech warrior who chickened out of a death match and left his family mech by the name of Grey Lady to her to fight in his place. After winning the duel and the mech, she went on to join the Illyrian militia, then joined some mercenaries, fought some pirates and monsters, and found an old Lostech cache. Her story ends with an anecdote about her smuggling Emma Centrella out of the hardcore system, when then Magistrix Kiala made an attempt on her life. This is a major historical event covered later in this book. The introduction is written by Evan Kaplan-Soong of the Interstellar Associated Press, who was suggested by their editor to put together a compilation on the Periphery, since Evan is from early Dawn, a world from the Magistry of Canopus, one of the major Periphery states. Evan goes on to describe the dangers and important discoveries involved with living outside the Inner Sphere. It also includes a small table of information on the minor Periphery States. In the next section, History of the Periphery, we are introduced to hundreds of years of history from the Periphery's point of view. This is, in a way, looking at this period of time from the other viewpoint of that found in the Star League book from 1988. It begins with the introduction of a veteran by the name of Hector Rowe and his founding of the Rimworld's Republic. Rowe was a veteran of the rebellion against the Terran Alliance in 2237, where he took up arms to defend his homeworld of Alexandria. After much rebel loss, he formed a paramilitary force and took revenge against Alliance forces on a nearly defenseless world known as Lucianka, ending in the execution of all opposing forces. Rowe then jumped through the Dark Nebula and founded what would become the Rimworld's Republic on the previously uncolonized planet of Apollo. Next, we follow another Periphery State founder, Samantha Calderon. After her family is killed by a Terran Alliance firing squad, she tries to use her newly inherited wealth to rebuild her home, but finds it is an uphill struggle. She pivots and uses her funds to form a deep space expedition, and looks to rebuild her home on a new world. They eventually settle on a planet called Taurus, forming the Taurian Concordat. Then, it follows Julius Avelar. After leaving the Davian military, he retired to the independent world of Alpharats. From there, he spoke very publicly against the great houses and garnered a large following of disillusioned people who flocked to him, causing Alpharats to grow, eventually becoming the foundation of the Outworlds Alliance. After, it covers Cassandra Centrella and her frustrations with the Free Worlds League, leaving her and a couple of mech lances stranded behind enemy lines on Highspire, a Capellan world. She spent the next few years gathering other angry mech warriors to form the Black Brotherhood, and left to the periphery to form what would be called the Magistracy of Canopus. After spending just a few pages introducing us to the founding of the 4 major periphery states, this section delves hard into the major events of the next hundreds of years, as seen from the point of view from the periphery. It covers the way the forming of the Star League Defense Force affected the periphery by the reunification war it waged upon them, where the SLDF forced the periphery states to fall under their governmental control. Then onto the rocking of the Inner Sphere and the SLDF through the betrayal by Stefan Amaris from the Outworlds Alliance, and the second rebellion of the periphery against the Inner Sphere, in which we see the destruction of the Rimworld Republic, but also a return to independence for the remaining states. Following the BattleTech timeline, the book then touches on the events of the periphery while the succession wars tear the Inner Sphere apart. It covers the periphery states' border disputes and how the decline of wealth in the Inner Sphere affected the economies of the periphery, the rise of pirates, and the struggles of the 3 remaining states against them. Then it goes over a war between the Magistracy of Canopus and the Capellans and the Magistrix Kiala's failed assassination attempt on her daughter, Emma Centrella, and Emma's rise to power. Then it covers the tensions between the Taurian Concordat and the Federated Sons. In the Outworlds Alliance, they recover from devastation using shady deals with Comstar and a somewhat reckless political marriage in the OA leadership. After the Succession War era coverage, we come across the clan invasion era of the Periphery's history. This begins with coverage of mysterious events and encounters with strange mechs, leading to much speculation by the Periphery states as to what it was transpiring. The return of Kerensky's forces? Pirates? Aliens? Lucky for the periphery, the Inner Sphere was the clan's target, but there were still minor events covered for the periphery in this book for this period. There is coverage on how the post-battle of Tukiat Comstar mostly pulled itself from the Outworlds Alliance, and it touches on the Treaty of Taurus between the Magistracy of Canopus and the Taurian Concordat. The history section of the book also covers events up through the Civil War era. While most of this history section is written as a sort of textbook on the subject, it also features interesting inserts, such as sections from historical screenplays, transcripts of audio transmissions, and segments of interviews, speeches, and a lot of great art. There is 60 pages of history here, which I barely touch on in this video. After History of the Periphery, we get into the real meat of the book, where it spends about 100 pages covering each of the major and minor periphery states individually. It begins with a handful of color pages displaying the flags, military rank insignias, industries, and awards of the Magistracy of Canopus, the Taurian Concordat, Marian Hegemony, Outworlds Alliance, Circinus Federation, and Rim Collection. The section for the Magistracy of Canopus starts with an excerpt from Emma Centrella's memoir covering the state of the magistracy during the Civil War era. Then it describes the government and politics covering the Magistrix, Central Committee, Crimson Council, electors, judiciary, Canopian nobility, citizenship, and politics of the magistracy. It then describes the armed forces of the magistracy and its command structure. This section does not feature artwork for the uniforms and outfits, it only describes these items through text. Moving on, it covers the economy, industries, and society in depth. It features maps of the magistracy throughout the years and has detailed information on major sectors and worlds. Handbook Major Periphery States repeats this pattern for the major periphery states, the Taurian Concordat, Outworlds Alliance, and Marian Hegemony. Then it does the same for the minor periphery states, but slightly less detailed. The last sections of the book feature a rules annex, where there are customized rules and data sheets for creatures, vehicles, and equipment for use in a time of war RPG. For classic BattleTech, it features technical readouts and record sheets for various interesting vehicles such as the Princess-class luxury liner and Snowden mining facility, and variations of the Rockhound Prospector work mech. As for my review, Handbook Major Periphery States accomplishes what it sets out to do, which is to act as a sourcebook for those interested in the overall lore of the periphery. For players like me who are uninterested in the great houses of the Inner Sphere and want to learn more about the other options, and create lore-friendly details for their forces, this is a great book for inspiration. The stories listed in the history section would make great jumping off points for the various BattleTech RPGs. A few gripes I have is that I would have loved to have had a color uniform reference, such as the one found in the Star League sourcebook. The details of the various battles covered are too vague to try to recreate on the tabletop, and I would have loved some camo specs and details of a sampling of individual forces for each of the states. However, as a fan of the lore of BattleTech, this book was fun to read from cover to cover and is written in a way that is easy to just sit down and enjoy as one would a novel. This one is a little on the pricey side when even purchasing the PDF at $25, but is still a steal compared to the current eBay offers reaching $180 and up. Thanks again for watching another video in my supplement series. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions for books to cover, please leave a recommendation in the comments. This video was inspired by a suggestion from a previous commenter, so please keep them coming. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you have been enjoying my content, please consider subscribing. As always, comments are very welcome. Please take care of yourselves, and we will see you next time.